having a call, we're having a normal call. Nobody said, oh, gee, he shouldn't have said that. Why? If this call was bad, I question the election.
You
If
asked
this
him to
call
find
was
you
bad,
votes.
I didn't ask him to find anything. Let me
We've
just tell
heard
you,
the audio
if
tape,
this
Mr.
call
President.
was
So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
The video you just saw was former President Trump last night denying asking Georgia's Republican Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, to find him votes before conceding that he did ask him to find him votes. And then the audio you just heard was then President Trump in January of 2021 directly asking Raffensperger to find him those votes. Joining us now, Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. Thank you so much, Mr. Secretary, for joining us tonight. What was your reaction when you heard those comments last night?
Well, President Trump said we didn't hang up on the phone call. You have to understand, I've been taught, and I believe in respecting people's positional authority, no matter what that level and what office they hold. But he held the office of President of the United States of America, and that office deserves respect whenever you have a conversation with the President of the United States of America.
So that's why you didn't hang up, not because he was essentially suggesting was that if you and your attorneys who were on the call, I should note, which was also recorded, actually thought something was wrong, that you would have hung up in the moment. But you're saying you didn't because it was the President of the United States on the other line.
I wouldn't hang up on a governor, senator, congressperson. I just respect people's positional authority. And I think that's one of the things that we have going on in America right now. You know, we have lost respect in the offices that people hold. And I think that we should have respectful conversations at all times.
And when he says that he was just calling to question the results of the election, initially claiming he wasn't asking you to find him anything, that's obviously not true. We've all heard the call.
Well, I gave him all the facts. He said in the call that there's 5,000 dead people that were alleged to have voted. They sued us on 10,315, and I told him that there was 2, and we found 2 more. They said that there's underage voters, 66,000. There were 0. That there was thousands of felons. It was less than 74. 2,400 non-registered voters. There's actually 0. But Caitlin, what's really interesting is I didn't realize until just recently, but it was reported in the newspaper that he actually had paid Berkeley Research Group. He spent over $600,000 for them to look into this, and he had that report the day before he called. And then just a few weeks ago, we heard about he paid Simpatico about $750,000, and they also came back and said there was not sufficient enough fraud to overturn this race. So he had the facts, and then he called.
And that was a report from the Washington Post. And so he had those facts. He called you. You explained again to him the numbers. But do you believe he was strong-arming you into using your office to get him votes that he did not earn from voters?
Well, I knew that we didn't have the votes. We knew that we had checked out everything, every single allegation. In fact, he handpicked Bobby Christine, his U.S. attorney from the Southern District, to come up to Atlanta and specifically look at the Fulton County counting of the absentee ballots that went on election night. And Bobby Christine, as a U.S. attorney, acting U.S. attorney of the Northern District, did not find fraud there, and then reported that back to the president. And so every time that there was an allegation, we did our checking so we could report back to the voters. I report back to the voters. I want all the voters to understand that we're going to have a fair and honest election, and that's my job, to make sure that they have confidence in the results.
What do you make of him saying that he would make that same call again to you today, despite the fact that the DA there has said charges could come this summer?
Well, if he did, he'd get the same answer. In fact, now we have even more data points that just show that President Trump did come up short. See, what happened in Georgia, and I think it may have happened in other states, but in Georgia we know 24,000 voters skipped the presidential race. They didn't vote for any of the 3 candidates for president, and yet they voted down ballot in other races. And that's why President Trump came up short. In fact, what you saw is actually our Republican congressman got 33,000 more votes collectively, 33,000 more votes than President Trump.
You've been clear that you obviously follow the numbers there, but you say, I am a Republican. You've noted before that you would have wanted a Republican to win that election. Does it hurt Republicans to have someone who is right now the GOP frontrunner that is still denying the results of the election, including in your state?
I think that when people run for office, they should be looking forward because that's where we're going to spend our future time. And that's really where, what people are looking at. What's going to happen next week? What's going to happen next year? What are your plans for the future? And so I think that when people run campaigns, it should be really looking towards the future, not just looking back and talking about stolen election claims, which have been disproven.
Brad Raffensperger, Georgia's Republican Secretary of State, your name was invoked many times last night, so thank you for joining us and your time tonight.
Thank you, Caitlin.